Hey everybody, today we're going to be doing another edition of the Knoxville Housing Market Update. Alright, today we're going to be looking at the Knoxville Housing Market Update for December of 2022. A few things to note before we jump in. We're using the last full month's worth of data, which for this video it's going to be November. All data comes from the Knoxville Area Association of Realtors, and data is exclusively in Knoxville. It's not including any of the surrounding areas. So if it has a Knoxville address, it'll be included in this data. We're going to start things off by looking at the number of listings. So here we're looking at 2022 compared to 2021. In November of 2021, there were 631 new listings. And in November of 2022, there were 491 new listings. That's a difference of 140 listings, which is a 22.2% decrease year over year. Visually, the trend from year to year looks about the same. Your difference is here in 2021, it peaks out in July, and in 2022, it peaks out in June, but the overall trend is about the same. Now, if we look at active listings, in November of 2021, we had 610 active listings. November of 2022, 860 active listings. It's a difference of 250 listings, which is a 41% increase. And remember, this is a snapshot of the 15th day of November. Moving on to sold listings, November of 2021, we had 685 sold listings. November of 2022, we had 517. That's 168 listing difference, and that's a 24.5% decrease year over year. So in summary, new listings and sold listings are both down over 20% year over year. This means there's less people buying and selling. 73% of mortgages nationwide are locked in at rates below 4%, which helps explain why people are unwilling to sell. Interest rates have been hovering around 7% in recent months. That helps explain why people are unwilling to buy quite as much. And active listings are up 41% year over year. There are more properties on the market due to homes sitting longer and less people buying those homes up. Looking at listing prices, we'll start by looking at the active median list price. In November of 2021, it was $319.9 thousand. In November of 2022, it was $400,000. That's a difference of $80,100, which is a 25.04% increase year over year. In 2021, active median list price was relatively flat from July to November. In 2022, active median list price increased from July to October and dropped from October to November. So my opinion on this is that buyers are much more price sensitive this year. If you're overpriced, you have a much higher chance of sitting on the market. Now looking at new median list price, in November of 21, it was $311,000. November of 2022, it's at $349.9 thousand. That's a difference of $38.9 thousand. It's a 12.5% increase. Look at the gap between new and active median list price. In November of 2022, there's a $50,000 gap, as opposed to November of 2021, where there was only a $9,000 gap. Sold median sales price in November of 2021 was $311,000. November of 2022, we're at $335,000. That's a difference of $24,000, which is a 7.7% increase. The gap between what's sitting versus what is selling is much greater in winter of this year compared to last. My takeaway here is that buyers are much more price sensitive this year as opposed to last year. Moving on to absorption rate. In November of 21, we were at 0.84 months. In November of 2022, we're at 1.32 months, which is an increase of 57.14%. One thing to note here, this indicates a 57.14% increase in inventory. Now this number is relative to the current sales rate. You only have 41% more active listings, but if you combine that with a lower sales rate, that's how you get that 57% number. One other thing to note is the trend. If you look at the trend last year compared to this year, last year it dropped, increased, and then dropped again. And then this year it increased most of the year and then started to flatten out towards the end of the year. So in summary here, the buyers have more options and more leverage than they did this time last year. Now let's look at sold to list ratio. In November of 2021, sellers were getting 99.8% of listing price. Fast forward to November of 2022, and now they're only getting 95.7% of listing price. It's a change of 4.1%. One thing to note, if you look at last year it fell and then started to flatten. This year it's only continued to fall. So in summary here, this doesn't necessarily mean that prices are falling. I interpret this to mean that sellers can't be quite as aggressive in this market compared to the years past. All right, finally, let's take a look at days on market. Now, this graph is going to show average agent days on market. If you've watched any of my previous housing market updates, I like to talk about median. So we'll go over average first, and then I'll hit on median. So the average agent days on market from November of 2021 was 14.9 days. In November of 2022, it's 24.2 days. So that's a difference of 9.3 days, which is a 62.4% increase. Now, if we look at median, November of 2021, we were at 4 days on market. November of 2022, we were at 9 days on market. So that's a difference of 5 days, which is a 125% increase. One thing to note here, you saw a significant increase at the back half of 2022 as compared to that flat in 2021. So in summary here, houses are sitting much longer this year compared to last. However, they're moving relatively quick if you compare it to the average of decades past. The trend in the next several months will tell us a lot about the future of the market. So in summary here, the overall housing market is starting to slow down. Buyers and sellers alike are starting to pull back a little bit. Forecasts indicate that in 2023, this trend will likely continue. We're coming out of one of the hottest housing markets in United States history, so it couldn't stay that hot forever. A lot of experts are indicating that this doesn't necessarily mean that there's a crash or anything like that on the horizon, more of just a deviation to the mean. All right, that's all I got for y'all today. I've linked the data set as well as my notes below, so please feel free to take a look at those. I've also linked my contact information. If you got any questions, please reach out. I'd love to talk to you. I appreciate y'all watching as always, and I'll see you next time.